Imagine fighting a war so brutal that even hope feels illegal. Now imagine standing on a battlefield filled with explosions, smoke, and death, and seeing something that makes you question your sanity. Not a weapon, not a machine. A bear, a full-grown brown bear, standing upright, calmly carrying live artillery shells toward the front line while bullets tear the ground apart. This is not a metaphor. This is not a legend. During World War II, the Polish army officially enlisted a bear as a soldier, gave him a rank, a service number, and sent him into one of the bloodiest battles of the entire war. But this story isn't really about a bear. It's about men who survived starvation camps, men who lost their country, men who found hope in the most impossible place imaginable. This is the unbelievable true story of Wojtek, the Nazi fighting bear. To understand how something like this could ever happen, you first need to understand the men who raised him, because these were not ordinary soldiers. Their story begins in 1939, when Poland was torn apart. Nazi Germany invaded from the west. The Soviet Union invaded from the east. Caught between two invading empires, Poland collapsed in weeks. Its army was shattered, its government dismantled, and its people abandoned. For hundreds of thousands of Polish soldiers and civilians, capture by Soviet forces meant something worse than imprisonment. It meant disappearance. They were loaded into cattle cars and transported thousands of miles east, into Siberia and Central Asia. Men, women, and children were sent to labor camps known as a gulag, places not designed for punishment, but for slow destruction. Food was scarce. Medical care was non-existent. Winter temperatures dropped far below zero. Prisoners worked until their bodies failed. People died quietly. Others simply vanished. Years passed in this frozen nightmare. Then, in 1941, history betrayed itself. Hitler turned on Stalin and invaded the Soviet Union. Overnight, enemies became reluctant allies. Desperate for manpower, Stalin agreed to release surviving Polish prisoners on one condition. They would form an army and fight the Germans. What emerged from the camps barely resembled an army. They were skeletal, diseased, barely alive. They were led by General Władysław Anders, himself pulled from a Soviet prison cell to command what became known as Anders' Army. Alongside the soldiers came thousands of civilians, wives, children, entire families, fleeing the Soviet Union together. This wasn't just a military unit. It was a wandering nation of survivors. Their journey south toward freedom was brutal. Hunger, disease, and exhaustion continued to claim lives along the way. Many who survived the Gulag died before reaching safety. When they finally arrived in Iran in 1942, they looked less like liberators and more like ghosts. And it was here, on a dusty road near the city of Hamadan, that fate intervened in the most unexpected way imaginable. A small group of Polish soldiers noticed a young boy standing alone, holding a burlap sack. Inside was a bear cub, a Syrian brown bear, malnourished, terrified, alone. The boy explained that the cub's mother had been killed by hunters. Without her, the cub would die. For men who had lost families, homes, and childhoods of violence, something about the cub shattered their defenses. Here was another orphan in a world that had taken everything. One of the civilian refugees traveling with the army, a young woman named Irina Bokiewicz, couldn't bear to leave the cub behind. She convinced a lieutenant to buy him. The price was almost absurd. A few tins of canned beef, some chocolate, and a Swiss Army knife. That was all it took. They named the cub Wojtek, derived from Wojtek, meaning joyful warrior. At the time, the name felt painfully ironic. Wojtek was weak. He could barely eat. The soldiers fed him condensed milk from an empty vodka bottle, using a rag as a makeshift nipple. They shared honey, fruit, and marmalade from their own limited rations. Slowly, the cub survived. Wojtek spent his early months in a refugee camp near Tehran, surrounded by soldiers who treated him not as an animal, but as something precious. Eventually, he was formally adopted by the 22nd Artillery Supply Company. For these men, caring for Wojtek was more than kindness. It was survival. They were men who had lost everything. In this small bear, they found something to protect, something innocent, something that reminded them they were still human. Wojtek slept in their tents, curling beside them for warmth. After years of cold barracks and prison camps, the simple companionship mattered more than anyone realized. And Wojtek learned fast. Having known only humans, he began to imitate them. He learned to stand on his hind legs. He learned to march. He was taught to salute. Wrestling became a favorite pastime. Soldiers took turns grappling with the growing bear, while others watched and laughed. Wojtek was always gentle, pinning men without harming them. These moments weren't trivial. They were therapy. Wojtek wasn't just tolerated. He was family. As the army moved through Iran, Iraq, Syria, Palestine, and Egypt, Wojtek went with them. He rode in trucks with his head out the window, shocking civilians who couldn't believe what they were seeing. He also picked up very human habits. He developed a taste for beer, drinking straight from bottles like his comrades. He even smoked, accepting lit cigarettes, taking a puff, and swallowing them whole. Picture it, battle-hardened Polish soldiers, exiled from their homeland, sitting around a campfire in the desert, sharing beer and cigarettes with a bear. Wojtek wasn't a mascot. He was a comrade. By 1944, the Polish II Corps had been integrated into the British Eighth Army and ordered to join the Allied campaign in Italy. That's when Wojtek became a problem. British Army regulations were clear. No pets allowed on military transport ships. When British officials at the port in Alexandria saw a full-grown brown bear attempting to board a ship, they refused immediately. The soldiers of the 22nd Company were devastated. Leaving Wojtek behind was unthinkable. So they found a solution that only men who had survived the impossible could imagine. If animals weren't allowed, Wojtek would stop being an animal. They officially enlisted him into the Polish army. Wojtek was given the rank of private, a service number, a paybook. His wages were paid in extra rations of honey and marmalade. With official papers in hand, the soldiers presented Private Wojtek to the British authorities. There was nothing they could do. A bear, legally enlisted in the army, boarded a troopship bound for war. Italy would be nothing like the desert. The Allies were locked in a brutal struggle against German defensive lines. At the center of it all stood Monte Cassino, a mountain fortress crowned by an ancient monastery. From January to May 1944, Allied forces launched repeated assaults. Each one failed. The slopes were steep, the terrain shattered. German paratroopers turned the ruins into a killing zone. By May, the task of breaking the Gustav Line fell to the Polish II Corps. For these men, the battle was personal. They were fighting for a homeland they might never see again. The 22nd Artillery Supply Company was stationed at the base of the mountain, tasked with hauling heavy ammunition under constant fire. Each crate weighed nearly 100 pounds. Men collapsed from exhaustion. Shells exploded around them. And then something extraordinary happened. Wojtek, now a massive adult bear weighing nearly 500 pounds, watched his comrades struggle. According to multiple eyewitness accounts, he stood upright, walked toward the ammunition trucks, and extended his paws. A soldier placed a crate into them. Wojtek lifted it and carried it again and again, never dropping a single crate. Imagine being a German soldier watching through binoculars. Explosions, chaos, and a bear calmly carrying artillery shells. It must have felt unreal. For the Polish soldiers, it was everything. If their bear wasn't afraid, how could they be? On May 18, 1944, Polish forces captured Monte Cassino. Their flag was raised over the ruins. The breakthrough helped open the road to Rome. Wojtek became a legend. The 22nd Company adopted a new emblem, a bear carrying an artillery shell. Wojtek was promoted to corporal. After the war, victory brought bitterness. At the Yalta Conference, Poland was placed under Soviet control. The men who had fought for freedom had no home to return to. They were resettled in Scotland. Wojtek went with them. In Scotland, he became a local celebrity, attending gatherings and charming civilians. But the army eventually disbanded. The hardest decision came. Wojtek was placed in the Edinburgh Zoo. His former comrades visited often. Zookeepers noticed that he would grow withdrawn until he heard Polish voices. Then he would come alive. Wojtek never truly became a bear again. He had been raised as a soldier. He died in 1963. Today, statues of Wojtek stand in Poland, Italy, and Scotland, honoring not just a bear, but the bond between broken men and the creature that gave them hope. Because Wojtek wasn't just a curiosity. He was proof that even in humanity's darkest war, compassion survived. Sometimes courage came on four legs. And sometimes the most human story of the Second World War wasn't human at all.